Okay, thank you for coming today. And we'll have copies of my statement in just a few minutes for you, and Rose's statement as well. I'm attorney Gloria Allred, and this is Rose Trevis, who is our client in this case. And today we're very happy to formally announce a victory in our lawsuit brought by Rose Trevis against Hawleywood's barbershop. In Rose's declaration filed with the court in support of our motion for a preliminary injunction against Hawleywood's barbershop, Rose stated, and quote, "At the time of the events described within this declaration, I was a transgender male with a masculine gender expression. Accordingly, I wore my hair cut short, less than 2 inches long. On the afternoon of March 4th, 2016, I was walking around a business neighborhood in the city of Long Beach, California, with my domestic partner, Laura Lozano. On or around 1:30 p.m., Laura and I came upon Hawleywood's barbershop and shaving parlor, also known as Hawleywood's. I had never heard of Hawleywood's, but I decided that I wanted to get a haircut, so Laura and I entered the shop. Upon entering, I could see that there was a man in one of the barber chairs having his hair cut. The barber cutting the man's hair approached me and asked how he could help us. I stated that I wanted to get a haircut. The barber told me that customers must have an appointment to receive a haircut at the shop. I then asked if there were any appointments available that day. Instead of answering my question, the barber stared at me for a few seconds before stating that the shop does not cut women's hair. I replied to the barber, quote, "Who says I'm a woman?" End quote. The barber repeated that the shop does not cut women's hair. I stated, quote, again, "Who says I'm a woman?" End quote. The barber then asked for my name and phone number. I provided this information, and the barber wrote it down in the book. The barber then told Laura and me to wait and headed to the back of the shop. He momentarily reappeared with another man who also appeared to be a barber at the shop. As the second barber approached me, he tilted his head and looked at me up and down. He seemed to focus on my legs and frowned. He then asked how he could help me. I told him that I wanted to get a haircut. He replied that the shop does not cut women's hair. I said, as I had told the first barber, quote, "Who says I'm a woman?" End quote. The second barber stood quiet for a few moments. I became upset and asked the second barber for a business card. The second barber started to walk away from me towards the front door of the shop. I followed him and told him that refusing service to me was discrimination. The second barber told me that the business, quote, "has the right to refuse services to anyone," end quote. He also added that the business, quote, "is an old school barbershop, and therefore they do not service women." Laura then asked if the reason the barbershop would not cut my hair was because Laura, as a woman, was in the shop with me. The second barber responded, quote, "We do not cut women's hair, and women are not even allowed in the shop," end quote. We are now able to officially confirm that we have achieved all of the goals which we announced that we were seeking to achieve when we announced the filing of this lawsuit. Hawleywood's, the defendant, has agreed to settle this case and has agreed to a permanent injunction and entry of judgment prohibiting Hawleywood's from directly or indirectly violating Civil Code Section 51, the Unruh Civil Rights Act, by maintaining discriminatory business policies or practices, including but not limited to refusing to offer services to individuals due to their gender or perceived gender, and violating Civil Code Section 51, the Unruh Civil Rights Act, by maintaining discriminatory business policies or practices, including but not limited to refusing admission to its business based on an individual's gender or perceived gender. Further, they are prohibited from violating Civil Code Section 51, again, the Unruh Civil Rights Act, by posting, advertising, or marketing in any form, including but not limited to print, online, or verbal, that indicates a policy of refusing to provide services or accommodations based on an individual's gender or perceived gender. The injunction is a court order, and if Hawleywood's violates it, then we have the right to ask the court to hold them in contempt. Although Hawleywood's has denied that it discriminated, in addition to agreeing to the court's entering an injunction against it, it has also agreed to pay our client damages and attorney's fees. It's interesting to note that it took a transgender male, Rose Trevis, to stop Hawleywood's policy and practice of discriminating against women. We commend Rose for his courage in stepping forward to end this blatant discrimination against women and those perceived to be women. Arbitrary discrimination by businesses is always wrong, and we are elated that we have won this important civil rights victory against Hawleywood's, which, as a result of our lawsuit, will no longer be able to exclude women or those perceived to be women from being able to enjoy the services of their business. And this is a copy which you will obtain, which we will give you, a copy of their discriminatory advertising on the Hawleywood's webpage, which has now been changed, but this is what it was previously. And this is a copy of the judgment signed by the court for the permanent injunction against Hawleywood's. So we're very happy about that. And I'm going to have Rose speak, but before I do, also, back here, Michael, can you move this forward? Help me move this forward. This was a copy, okay, hold on. Okay, thank you. This was what they were advertising, and so they had said that one thing you won't see at Hawleywood's is women. You all know how distracting a woman can be, and who wants a straight razor shave with a buxom blonde in the joint. So that's an example of what was in their on their webpage. They had also called Hawleywood's a men's sanctuary. So obviously, it's no longer going to be a men's sanctuary. All right, Rose. That's all right. Thank you. You can sit there. Oh, so you want to sit on the other side? Thank you.
On March 4th of this year, I never would have thought I'd experience the humiliation of being discriminated against as a transgender man. Being frowned at and denied service for a haircut based on my perceived gender was quite daunting. I was disturbed that a public business would have the audacity to deny me service because I was perceived to be a woman. It was quite humiliating and shameful to be ridiculed and given the excuse that I couldn't receive a haircut for that reason. I was shocked that I experienced this form of discrimination and disrespect. Through this experience of discrimination, I hope we can build understanding and acceptance, regardless of gender or gender identity. What began as an unfortunate event has ended in justice. I am very happy that I fought this battle and helped to win change and equal rights for women and individuals who are transgender. Thank you.
And we're happy to take some questions, if there are any.
Gloria, did you find this was the first time Hollywood's had this event occur? An event like this occur?
Can you just scooch over a little bit?
Sure.
If you look at, it's okay, if you look at the comments that previously were on the internet, others alleged that they had suffered discrimination on account of their gender at Hawleywood's previously. And by the way, I also want to introduce my law partner of 40 years, Michael Morocco, who did a great job on this case and is also going to be available to answer questions.
Gloria, you mentioned there was damages. Are you able to say what the damages were?
We're not disclosing the amount of damages, but Hollywoods will be paying damages and attorney's fees, as well as having agreed to the courts ordering a permanent injunction against them in this case.
Is Rose ever going to go back there?
Good question, Rose.
Um,
Question is Rose ever going to go back to Hollywoods?
Most likely not. It wasn't a very good experience.
Rose, had you ever experienced that at any other business?
No, never have experienced discrimination in my life.
Patty, can I have a copy? You can give. Okay, are there other questions as well? By the way, in answer to one of your questions, in Rose's declaration filed with the court, which we've given you a copy of, in paragraph 17, Rose said under penalty of perjury that when Rose and Laura were in the Hollywoods, that after Rose suggested that the business's policy may be illegal, Rose stated that the second barber told me that, quote, "we don't care," end quote, and that, quote, "people have tried to sue before and we've been in the media," end quote. That's what he stated in his declaration.
Is everybody be glad to put this all behind you?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear?
Will you be glad to put this all behind you?
Yes, definitely.
What's next for you?
Just focus on, moving forward with my life and hopefully continue to advocate for, transgender LGBT rights in the future.
Is that your background, doing,
I
standing up for the rights?
Move straight over a little closer.
I advocate for people in a different manner, but I do.
But that's not what you intended when you went in that day, right?
No,
You just went
no.
in for a haircut?
I just went in for a haircut. It's just very simple.
This seems like a very speedy conclusion.
Uh,
Faster than normal?
It was a very speedy result. The court had scheduled a hearing on our request for a permanent injunction against Hollywoods for this coming Friday, August 26th. I had chosen that date because it's Women's Equality Day. But we were able to settle the case in advance of that hearing, and therefore no hearing was necessary. And so we submitted the agreement, which is called a stipulation, to the court last week, and the court entered judgment last week and signed the order last week. So I provided you with a copy of the signed order from the judge. Okay. Okay. So this is a copy of the, let's see here, yeah. This is a copy of the order that the judge signed, and this is the judge's, having sent, and this is the signature of the judge on the order. Okay.
Rose,
Sure.
you mentioned it was humiliating. Would you say, were you surprised, I mean, in this day and age, you're in Southern California, or is this something you faced before?
I've never faced any form or type of discrimination in the past. So it was pretty surprising, just because based on location, it was kind of taken off guard, really. So
What do you mean by the location?
it's in the shop is located in a primary LGBT community, right in the root of the Long Beach area. So you don't expect that in that type of area. So
Like Belmont Shore or near Belmont Shore?
4th Street.
Closer to downtown maybe?
Yeah, there's I don't recall the cross street, but it's on 4th Street.
They do have several locations, however,
Yeah.
but this happened to be in Long Beach. Okay. Is there anything else? Okay, 1 second. So this is, stand up. Okay.
Sure.
So this is a victory for Rose and also for many, many others who find that discrimination is abhorrent and must not be tolerated. So we're very happy about this. Thanks, Rose.